I'm starting my last 4-day stay in the central part of Malta, pretty much in the core of Malta's tourism zone. A little personal escape is always on the menu here. With luxurious seaside accommodation, star-quality spas and treatments to revive tired city senses, modern ambience and surroundings, and of course, those ever-present Mediterranean views. After a good breakfast, I'm heading off to meet my diving instructor for some shore diving around Malta. Hi, good morning. I'm Samira. I called to book a dive with you today.
Yes, hi Samira.
Hi.
You're very experienced, and the way the conditions are today, we're going to head south to Wittezuri. Do you know the site? Have you heard of it?
I think I've heard of it.
All
There's a wreck there, right?
Exactly, Farrugia. It's also known as the Blue Grotto, which is a bit easier to pronounce. So, Wittezuri Blue Grotto.
Okay.
You need to fill out some paperwork.
Yeah.
I believe you have your cert card with you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've
so
got everything with
we'll
me.
do that. Your instructor today is David, and I can see really all you need is tank and weight. So we'll fill out the paperwork, and then I'll take you to meet David.
Okay, let's do it. Wittezuri, or Blue Grotto, is one of the best 2 shore dives off Malta. It's not really worth doing this by boat, as it has all the facilities required by scuba divers, as David explained in his briefing. There's only one way in the water: you jump off the jetty.
This is Wittezuri. You can do several dives here. You can either stay into the valley, you can go explore the reef to the left or the right, or make your way out to the wreck of the Farrugia.
We swam underwater for a while in shallow water, following the shoreline, and headed towards the wreck of the Farrugia.
The wreck of the Farrugia was scuttled in 1998. It acts as a marine sanctuary and a reef, an artificial reef, and also attraction for divers like ourselves to go visit.
It's a wonderful sight seeing the wreck as you descend. Camera in hand, I immediately got my camera rolling. Small fish have made this wreck their home, and the possibility of going inside the wreck with great ease has made this dive site one of the best on the Maltese islands.
The wreck of the Farrugia is a very popular site. People do come along and say, we're diving Farrugia. They don't mention the Blue Grotto or Wittezuri at all. They believe it's just Farrugia, being such a large wreck.
It was nice diving inside the wreck, but in my opinion, outside is even nicer, especially with great underwater visibility and fish roaming all over. It's an underwater paradise. The only effort that there is really is to get to this wreck from the shore and make it back to dry land safely.
The wreck of the Farrugia is highlighted by the large yellow marker buoy. My advice would be to conserve a little on air, do a slight surface swim, perhaps follow the reef round to the right, take a bearing over to the yellow marker buoy and swim out shallow until you hit the top of the wreck and then descend down to your depth. Obviously, navigating your way out to the wreck using this method, you're conserving your levels of nitrogen in your system, so avoiding decompression stops on the way back. Hopefully to avoid them all, but if you do, obviously lessen in time.
If one follows the advice given by the local diving instructors, then this should be an easy, enjoyable dive.
Be very careful on your swim out towards the Farrugia. This area is notorious for some very strong currents. Do use the physical advices. You'll see the grass bending over in the current, and you'll actually physically feel yourself turning. If you feel it's too strong, turn around, go back. The wreck will be there tomorrow to dive again.
David guided us into the two sections of the wreck. We began the dive on the stern and then swam towards the bow section of this wreck.
Okay, the wreck of the Farrugia is in two halves. You have the bow section and the stern, distinctly cut in the middle, and the bow section for wreck penetration very good, some very, very large holes you can swim in and out of. The stern section a bit more tighter with corridors and smaller rooms, young cabins, and a very large engine room. Like any wreck, be very careful with sharp objects or entanglement in some of the wiring, what is left inside the wreck. So just be careful inside.
The idea of creating an artificial reef has worked well with the Farrugia. It not only added to the marine life, but created a much needed underwater attraction for scuba divers.
The wreck itself, serving its purpose as the artificial reef, is certainly an attraction for fish. It attracts a lot of the small fish, in turn attracts larger predatory fish. It's very often you'll see amberjacks and barracuda hunting around the wreck.
With ample air left in our cylinders, we started our way back to the shore.
A word of warning would be not to get too carried away once you're on the wreck. Remember your planned dive and dive your plan. You still have a long way to get back into the valley, so air management is crucial. Do not cut any corners, plan the dive and dive your plan.
The Farrugia was a great wreck dive, but I'm also keen to explore other attractions found above water in this area. The southwest coast of Malta is home to the natural marvel known as Blue Grotto. It's a series of striking sea caverns that can be accessed from this fishing village, Witizere. Not too far from here, there's also two megalithic temples that are definitely worth a visit. The lure of the Blue Grotto and a clear view of Filfla, which is the archipelago's smallest island, makes this region a popular destination amongst sightseers. Regular boat trips to the caverns allow nature lovers to admire the island's secrets up close, while scuba diving, snorkeling and rock climbing excursions are perfect for thrill seekers. With such an interesting natural backdrop, it's no wonder that Witizere has been featured in many films, including the famous 2004 epic Troy. Oh, and one more thing. If you do find yourself in Witizere, don't forget to look out for one of the area's most interesting landmarks. Shutu Tower, or Torri Shutu as it's known in Maltese, played a pivotal role in Malta's architectural history. Dating back to the 17th century, the structure was an experimental one, a prototype for the watchtowers built by the Grand Master de Redin. Not too far from Witizere stand two formidable temples. The first, Hajar which looks down at its sister temple in Nidra, from a hilltop overlooking the sea. Before visiting these two temples, it's best to visit the Interpretation Center. This will give you a better understanding at what you'll be looking at when you walk inside the temples themselves. Both temples are listed among the megalithic temples of Malta, which means that they're among the oldest freestanding structures in the world. Hajar was built during the island's Gigantia phase, a period which covers the earliest dated temples on the Maltese islands. And its site revealed some stunning discoveries. Today, Most original artifacts discovered in these temples can be viewed at the National Museum of Archaeology, which is located in the capital city of Valletta. The town of Zurich holds also some interesting features. I certainly recommend a visit to the Sciarola windmill. This is one of the windmills constructed by the Order of St. John in the villages and towns of Malta. It was built in the 18th century and is presently one of the most preserved windmills in Malta. The windmill is an agritourism attraction and is found in a complex of agricultural buildings such as a farmhouse, a chapel, catacombs, and others. It was restored to its original working order and is now one of the few functioning windmills on the Maltese islands. This is a valuable witness of local culture and heritage. It still has parts of the original mechanisms and can still grain wheat. With so much sea around the south coast of Malta, I head back to meet David for a quick glance at other interesting dive sites that I may include in my future diving holiday on the island. Thank you so much for the dive earlier today at Farrugia. It was beautiful. A lot of swimming, but really, really nice. I wanted to ask a little bit. I heard that there's another dive site close by Arlapsi. Could you tell me a little bit about it?
Yes, it's very close. It's only 2 kilometres down the road. It's a very nice dive. Quite shallow, maximum depth around about 20 metres. And there's 3 finger reefs you can follow out. Go down to a depth of 20 metres, 18, 20 metres, and raises up to a depth of around 6 metres. There's also tunnels. A little cave system you can navigate through. It has 3 exits and bring you out to a nice sandy bed. On the sandy bed you might find some fish life, some flatfish, small octopus maybe, reef fish swimming around, plenty of life. The odd barracuda now and again, morays inside the reef tucked away. It's a very pretty place.
Okay, you need to be good at spotting the fish life in the reef, I guess.
You need to take things slow. That's the best way to do any dive whatsoever when you're looking for life. Take it nice and slow. The slower you go, the more you'll see, for sure.
Okay, and is that good dive to do for all levels? Would I be able to do it, or is it something that is catered to specific type of diver?
Obviously, with the overhead environment, the cave system would be out for some divers. Okay. But you can certainly go in with complete novices on certain parts of the dive. There are 2 entrances, and both are very easy for novice divers.
Okay, that sounds great. I'd love to do that on my next dive, definitely. I also wanted to ask about, I heard something about 2 tugs also in the south of Malta, is that correct?
Yes. Master Scala's on to point. 2 tugs put down by the Malta Tourism Authority, specifically for divers to swim around.
Okay.
They're sitting very close to the reef, but they are quite to swim out to them. You enter the water very easily. There's railings normally put in by the MTA, so you can enter the water quite easily, swim over the reef. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes, nice and slow over the top of the reef. Again, looking for life, octopus, moranas, small fish, any fish swimming around on the top of the reef. You can drop down onto the tugs. Alternatively, you can go out on the surface. It's actually marked by a buoy on the surface. You can drop down the shot line and then navigate to the tugs themselves. You can do both tugs on the same dive. They're sitting about 50 metres apart, so it is possible, if you're quite good on air, to do the 2 tugs. The 2 tugs themselves are looking quite good, still quite intact because they're robustly built, and you see a lot of small life on them, nudibranches especially. You see a lot of nudibranch on the 2 tugs.
Okay. if you're good at spotting things. I noticed from the dive we did together that you're much better at spotting things than I am. You're pointing at something and it takes me a few minutes to even notice it's there. So I need to get better at that. And I also wanted to ask about the Blenheim bomber. I've seen a couple of pictures and it looks beautiful. Is there something you can tell me about that dive?
It's for experienced divers only, and it's also a boat dive. It's sitting off Martha Scala, down in the south of the island. Over the years, it's deteriorated a lot. Okay. Basically, what you have left are the two aeroplane engines and a small part of the fuselage. For a plane enthusiast, yes, it'll be on his tick list.
Yeah.
But honestly, myself, I believe there's other dive sites better, and more new dive sites coming online rather than the Blenheim. But one for the tick list, if people want to go for it, then yes, for sure.
And that's quite a deep dive?
It's sitting about 42 metres.
Okay.
A boat dive, mixed gas dive maybe, or accelerated decompression dive. Dangers there really are tides. You can get some quite strong currents down in that area, so coming up on the line you can be expected to use quite a bit of gas trying to stay just on a deco stop or something, so you have to be quite careful with that dive.
And is that the reason why it's deteriorated so much, or is there
probably
is it in storms and things like that?
The aeroplanes are made of very flimsy material. Obviously not the engines, that's why they're still there, but the actual fuselage and the bodywork on aeroplanes, they're a very small aluminium and they don't last so long. Okay,
so it's expected to happen with all wrecks really, it's just a matter of when. Okay.
Yes, for sure. It's like the two tugs back in Martha Scala, they're robust, made of heavy iron and steel, so they're going to last a lot longer than aluminium underwater. For sure.
Okay. Well, I think I would still love to do the Blenheim bomber just because I've never seen a plane underwater, so that would be very interesting.
There are other planes. We have the Beaufighter, the Junkers, we have a Neptune. There are several other planes in and around the island to look at.
Well, I need to do a bit more research, but I think for the next dive, definitely Arlapsea I would love to do.
Oh, look forward to taking you for sure.
Thank you very much. It's already been an invigorating trip full of wonders and flavours. From the mysterious Blue Grotto in Wittis to the world-renowned megalithic temples, and last but not least, the diving sites. Another popular dive site is awaiting me tomorrow, and one place that everyone coming to Malta must visit, Malta's capital city, Valletta.